calling to order the City of Rollingwood Utility Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. First thing will be roll call, starting at my left.
Chris Kirksey.
Jonathan Miller.
Walter Rollison.
Christopher Meekin.
Did we do roll call on?
Elizabeth Bray.
Thank you. Moving on to public comments. I don't recall seeing any. Moving on to the consent agenda. Discussion and possible action on the minutes from the April 2nd, 2024 Utility Commission meeting. Those are in the packet. Has anyone ever had a chance to review? Want to make a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to the regular agenda. Discussion regarding AT&T and Verizon results from the cellular service survey, which was in the package. There's a number of slides in here as well, so I'll open
Yes.
it up.
Not intend to present on these, just wanted to let y'all know that was a request from the last meeting when we talked about the cell service survey to split those by AT&T and Verizon. We might have noticed one small error, so we may be sending around an updated, but it's pretty close, it appears. So another quick update on that is we were in contact with Westlake Hills, and they are considering actually sending out the same survey to their residents. And so if they do, we'll be able to put that data together and possibly have some additional purchasing power, I suppose, to talk to the cellular companies about or see what we can do with that. But
Gotcha. I'm trying to see if it's it seems like between the two carriers it's equally garbage.
Well, no, I mean, like, look at page 8. Like, that's a pretty different distribution. That doesn't slope the same way. That's like a curve.
8.
I'm going, is it not set? Yeah, sorry, page 8. I'm based on the upper left box.
oh, are you on the PDF package?
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
sorry. Or, yeah.
What's the question?
Quality
was-
of cellular service outside residence.
Well,
homes. We care
AT&T
about residence
looks-
homes. But even on the residence homes, like, it's not as, the slope's not the same, for sure. These are small numbers that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sort of like a 3x difference versus like 5x.
Well, yeah, I was going to say
And then even-
23 out of 33, which is basically 2/3 rank at 1
Yeah.
or 2, versus you've got 72 out of 99.
Yeah,
And
and it's
really
amazing how many
useful and helpful.
Yeah, it's amazing how many more AT&T people have, you know, supplemental equipment than Verizon. So it's not like Verizon's a slam dunk. By all means.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seems slightly better. Okay.
Any questions, comments, or follow-up? I think this was just information that will be interesting for us to look at and have. I'm glad that we did it. I mean, I don't know how much we can do with it today, but
Yeah.
maybe with Westlake Hills coming on board and pooling resources over the coming decades, and then moving on beyond cellular, and then we don't have to address this.
I imagine we don't want to make a formal recommendation here either way, and this isn't like clear enough to do it. But I mean, is this? I don't know if we should share this in any way or outside of this point. Okay.
We found out we have terrible cell service.
Yeah.
That's what we found out. And we sort of kind of knew that going in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And seemingly that the Wi-Fi calling, you would think would be, I mean, is that a Wi-Fi issue? If your Wi-Fi calling isn't working, I mean, technically you should have no issue making calls with Wi-Fi calling, which I don't have really any issues.
Ashley, I actually have a serious question. Because most of us, I mean, none of us have landlines anymore. If you were to call police and fire and you don't have reception, that would be a real concern.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
But on the other side, these are individual contracts with third-party carriers that the city has nothing to do with. It's not a public utility anymore. So I'm of two minds on these things of what, I think a customer has more power to say, I'm leaving you because your service is crummy, as opposed to a city going, hey, we don't like you. But then I look at the way you can't get police or fire, but I don't know that there's anything that can be done.
I have.
Y'all, I think the issue is that the cell service amongst all of the carriers is not great depending on what portion of the city that you live in. And so, you know, having it be a competitive selection process for service isn't necessarily an option for many.
No, I'm
And-
sure they all use the same tower.
Well, that's the whole problem. There used to be a whole lot more towers, and there used to be one over on Walsh Charlton that, you know, really gave us much better cell service in this area, but that is no longer in use. They have moved the towers now that are the big shared towers, that still exist because, that, are way on the outskirts of town. There's none sort of closer in town, because they've moved to all of these different private towers for businesses and boosters and so forth and so on. And so the service that we used to get from a tower, we don't get anymore. In an earlier meeting last year, I should be in the agenda packet somewhere, back then, I put a map of where all the towers are now
Yep.
versus where we used to have.
One interesting update, I was meeting with Charter last week for a business meeting. They're not a carrier here to my knowledge, but they are updating their home Wi-Fi units to also turn them into cell providers. And so they're gonna basically start having cell coverage via all of their clients' homes. And they're planning on creating like sort of a micro network off of that. It's where they can, they borrow spectrum, I think, from maybe AT&T, I'm not sure, but that way they feel like they can create a better network for their clients where they have density because they're a major cable provider. Maybe there's something that's gonna happen, maybe, I don't know if our cable providers can do that. I was like, that sounds promising, to not just be providing Wi-Fi, but actually get like cell signals on a distributed basis. I know that's not actionable, but
Or if we get Google Fiber and have better cable provision, then Wi-Fi calling will work better, because a lot of that, even customers with gigabyte and whatnot service, because they don't actually get that bandwidth.
Yeah.
Because the number of pairs that go on the connection to it. So maybe that will help with Wi-Fi calling, but it's not gonna help with cell service.
yeah.
And it's not gonna help when you know, drive down Rollingwood Drive past the park, which is 5 seconds from City Hall, and you drop your cell service every time you drive down that road.
Ashley, has there been an instance where there was a problem because someone couldn't get emergency services because their cellular provider couldn't connect?
We've not been made aware of one. We've heard, you know, anecdotally, especially like when the power's out too, like if we have a power outage and then people are relying on cell phones and then that's your only way of communication, that they then are in a similar position.
Well, I plugged
but-
in over there.
Right, yeah, exactly. But no, we haven't heard of a specific issue. I will say all of our police phones are on a FirstNet where they get a priority for towers, so they generally are okay from a service perspective. Especially even if the power goes out, it has a cell capability. But as far as residents, I've never heard that, but
Okay.
definitely a concern though.
So what happened with the working group on understanding if there would be interest from companies if we had a place for a tower, a mini tower or something? Did y'all chat about that?
Gosh, I don't recall
I don't either.
I'm trying to recall. Other than we know AT&T blew us off last time.
Right.
But that's been a while. And frankly, with Google's interest in the city and certainly causing some competitive pressures on the rest of the providers, maybe there will be some opportunity. Perhaps we revisit this through that. Was there a subcommittee that we put on that? I'm trying to remember what we did.
I don't know that it was a subcommittee so much as just, I guess, an informal.
Okay.
We had a few meetings with some different carriers. I don't think Verizon was a ton of help either. We had tried to go through our rep.
Because they
for
wanted
that.
to try to get us for the emergency service, right? Because the police aren't using Verizon.
Right.
currently.
Yeah.
So
Police
they came
are,
to
yeah.
sell them
Mhm,
on
right,
that.
and then they had already had a similar solution, and
Yeah.
but yeah, they put us through the same route, where I think the only route they sent us through is where you can request a tower or something, but I don't know what it would actually take. I mean, besides filling out a form, I don't think one person filling out a form, would do it, so I'm sure they have some kind of threshold of interest before they would even look at doing something like that. So.
Yep.
Well, they're very big on selling their Wi-Fi stroke cell packages now and get your Wi-Fi through your cell service, which is not going to work very well here.
Any motions, proposals?
I think we just keep this as something that we have information on it. We know that we'll bring it up from time to time. We know residents will bring it up, but there's no direct action to take unless someone has an idea.
Well, I feel like at the very least, we should not be relying on outreach that we made from a couple of years ago, and that we should at least make an attempt to understand what the possibilities are and or speak to them. If we are asked what one is doing about this, we have current information. May provide us with a new opportunity, or it may not, but at least we'll be doing our job of having current information.
We'll continue to work with Westlake Hills and see when they do their survey, and then I think that will give us a lot more information to go off of other than just our square mile. If we have their data as well, I think that's a good place to go back to some of the carriers we spoke to in the past. So.
Okay.
Do we have I know when Google came here, they spoke to the city. Do we have a dialogue with AT&T because of their fiber presence? Like there isn't, we don't have like a PS, a point of contact.
No, not that I've ever come across, but we can look into
Like
it.
if we as city had an issue with AT&T on the fiber side, like I imagine maybe there's like somebody we could talk to and be like, hey, like we would like to engage with somebody on the cell side.
Sure.
I don't know if there's any leverage there.
We can explore that.
Yeah. Google, I was just looking, Google has a cell service as well, so maybe like we can bring it up with Google.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
know what they're willing to do. I mean, this is out there, but I think we're just looking for options.
Agreed.
I think it's
All
a
right.
good shot.
Yeah, I think we're looking for opportunities where we can actually have leverage, because right now we probably don't, but to the extent that our neighbors and us can partner, maybe we have some more, and so waiting to see the results of their survey and the thoughts that they have, and then telling them, we know we're here, we'd love to work with you if you guys, we'll bring more households to the table, maybe more compelling. With that, moving on to the next item, which is discussion of possible action regarding a policy for reimbursement to the city due to water main line breaks. This was included in the packet after the subcommittee met with the city and walked through the language, came up with some ideas. Is this still being reviewed by legal? Because it.
We did discuss it with legal, and it was okayed initially. There's some things that may need to be looked into. Pretty much, we can choose how, it's a policy. There's nothing illegal about what we had here.
And the main intent from the subcommittee was, one, making sure we identify responsible parties, but understanding that at the end of the day, a homeowner, a property owner, whoever is involved in the lot or the work that's being done, there's a responsible party that may be on the hook to reimburse the city for lost water. Currently, there is a plan in place to reimburse the city for the cost of the repairs, but the water loss itself is not something that has been addressed in policy. And so there is, and it's referenced in this policy, there is a standard algorithm type formula that is used to determine the amount of water it is being used in a number of municipalities. We do reference the ability to use a different one if it's consistent with a neighboring municipality or becomes more commonplace. But there is a way to say, hey, the break was this big, it was broken for this long, that's 1,000 gallons of water. We would apply the same a cost that's a cost plus 10%, you know, wholesale cost plus 10% that we do for normal residential leaks. We're not trying to make this a revenue driver for the city. This is let's not make this a cost center for the city. And so, to the extent that there is some policy in place, this was the language we came up with to try to track down a responsible party and say, hey, in addition to the water main that you're fixing, there's also a cost of the water that was lost that the city would have to pay for. So that was just the intent around this, and I think it does a nice job of doing that. But I'll open it to any questions or comments.
And I believe, I do like the language about call before you dig and saying, it's on you.
I was curious as to, for like recent incidents that we've had, what would the expected bill have been? Like, do we have a sense for what these like penalties are going to look like?
There was a recent one that was calculated and it was about $10,000
Wow,
in
okay.
water cost. That big one where there was water running down the street.
That's other side of the meter.
Yes, that was a contractor cost.
City side.
City side. Mhm.
Right. Again, this is for city side of the meter, which otherwise we would have, it would go to whoever owns that meter otherwise.
That was one thing that was clarified with legal, is probably that even if you do end up, you know, like if the 90 days passes and it does get passed to the landowner or the property owner, it's not likely to go on the utility bill.
Right.
It should be a separate invoice.
Okay.
Fair.
And he could look further into whether there's the possibility of shutting water off, that kind of thing. But that wasn't really the goal that we were looking for necessarily.
Would that type of bill follow that property or that person? Meaning,
It
can
becomes
that
a
property then
lien.
be sold, but it's a responsible party still holds on to the bill, or would that being outside of an unpaid utility wouldn't stop a property sale either?
It
No,
would-
but it could possibly stop a CO
Okay.
Yeah.
if there's a contract.
But we basically have to sue them, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to
We
assume.
just have to sue.
You,
Okay.
you can't get a lien, like a contractor's lien on the property?
That was
No.
something that they could look into.
We
too.
can, we can lean currently, I think, on utilities that are unpaid, so that might be an option that we could also
Yeah.
explore.
I looked at it as I hire a contractor who backs into a city truck and causes, and it's not, you know, that's my agent, so I'm responsible for the damage to the truck. And that water, I don't think you can lien the property, but you're gonna have to solve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically, yeah.
But we did put in there what you guys had suggested from the subcommittee, that after 90 days, that the bill would be responsible of the
So it would go
property
down the
owner.
line.
If you didn't have a responsible party from like construction, but which we usually do, then it would go to the property owner, the person who hired the contractor as well.
Is that also the distinction where there's a section where it talks about non-owners and they're responsible, but then it says if there's an active construction permit, does that really mean whoever the property owner is the responsible party for the permit?
Active construction permits can either be applied for by the contractor or the owner
Okay.
of the property, and they have to provide a responsible party form to the city.
Okay.
So we have that for each of our permits.
Okay.
So the next step is to vote on this and with approval to send it to city council for review. They can change it and approve it, or they could kick it right back to us. But so that is the next step here.
Any thoughts, councilmember liaison, other than, because if there's something that council may just not be interested in, we might want to deal with it now.
I think this was initiated by council,
Okay, so,
so we're interested.
go.
It
Thank
may
you.
not be punitive enough for them, but they can make that change.
Are we,
Yeah.
like, are we not worried about some situations like we described where like someone's hired some contractors to like plant a tree and then they break a pipe and all of a sudden now they've got like tens of thousands of dollars that they
So
so what's the plan?
the plan there is one that's few and far between, and two, that's still not our problem. It's a harsh way of saying it, but that owner needs to deal with that contractor. If that contractor caused a break and caused this, again, I don't think it's gonna happen very often, and if it
Yeah.
does, it is an unfortunate situation.
And they're
But
not
the
gonna
city
plant a tree on the other side of the meter.
Well, one is, we have some areas where we've said that lines can be in.
Oh, that's right,
On
that's right,
properties,
yeah.
but
There-
those would
there-
be in
there's some mains.
easements, so they shouldn't be putting them in the
Yeah,
easements.
but you gotta call before you.
But you
do it.
gotta
You're
call.
supposed to call.
So if you call
Yeah.
and they say you can dig right here, and you dig there, and you hit a line,
You're cool.
we've had that you are no longer responsible because the city or whoever it is told you
Yeah.
that that area was clean. But if you don't call and you dig even on your property within an easement, which would be the only area where there would potentially be a line, and you break something, it's hard to say that the city should eat the costs of, because one, repairing it, and two, the cost of the lost water. But it's not the best, but
I would expect that the majority of outcomes are gonna be that it's some crew that does this, and I imagine most of like the landscaping and yard crews don't know to call the city. And so I bet I would expect that when these leaks are happening, I mean, correct me if I'm
call
wrong, but I
before
would,
you dig, I've found is
That's part of this
pretty
mostly
well
happening.
known.
like, do people call before they dig, or do we get a lot of calls, or for most of these
Well,
things?
it's a-
People will definitely, if there's water running down the street, we know about it.
No,
It's reported quickly,
Call
but
before you dig. Do people
Yeah.
call?
we do locates constantly.
Okay.
They are getting emails. There's a kind of a unified system where they go to multiple people in our organization. There's probably, I mean, how many would you say a day?
Oh, we can have from 1 to 5, 10, depending.
Okay. And so you would say that most of like the crews know to call.
Construction crews definitely
The
know.
more
That's-
responsible ones do.
Construction
Right.
and builder, but like.
Yeah.
Landscaping is a little more questionable because there's kind of a gray area. We don't require landscaping permits unless there's some
Yeah.
actual like excavation or like some serious. So those ones we're not always aware of. Like we don't have a responsible party on file. We don't have like a permit to hold up or a
Yeah.
CO to withhold from them. So those ones are just a little more difficult.
I mean, you get where I'm going with this. I'm a fan of this. I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do. I'm saying that we could be creating a situation where the majority of these incidents, it's a surprise to the person,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they did something wrong occurred, and so somebody has to pay for that.
Right.
But are we gonna end up with like a trail of people who are extremely unhappy?
I would say most of the breaks,
And they're
if
like,
not most, if
how would
not
I have known?
all, have been have been contractors that I'm
Okay, okay.
really that I've been aware of in the last
Okay.
5 years that I've been here. It's rare. I mean, we'll have lines just break out of nowhere that are not caused by either, but it's rare that someone's planting a tree in their yard and they hit one.
Okay.
I haven't seen it
Okay.
happen. So
But I mean, do we think? I guess we'll find out. I'd be surprised if the contractors pay this. But they're probably gonna pass it through.
we've
right?
had a
It's
few.
probably gonna be the residents.
We've never passed through water loss to this point, but we have been passing through actual cost to fix, and it's not cheap. Our
Yeah.
contract, our contract work that comes in and does the water line work, they're very, it's pretty pricey because they have to have 10 people there to do
Yeah.
all the safe, be very safe when they're doing the work. So, I mean, it can be $5,000 or $6,000 for a 4 or 5 hour event,
Yeah.
and people, I mean, contractors pay it, and they normally.
And they don't pass that through, or I'm assuming they pass it
In
through.
other ways.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What they do with it is a
They-
good
they-
question. Yeah.
Frankly, I mean, I don't think they get a certificate of occupancy if they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are these are always new construction? I guess so.
I don't know if they're always new. Not
We
necessarily.
had 2 breaks when we were living at Vale and Milhouse that just happened randomly.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with us. The yard just burst open a couple times. So.
Well, the water
We have
CIP,
geysers
water
too.
CIP is number 6
Yeah.
on the agenda.
We
Next
have
one.
geysers too.
I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen. I guess with the repairs.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering if that happened at that house. Like, I mean, obviously that's happened on Vale Street quite a bit, even to some of the older residents.
Mm-hmm.
This
We-
isn't
we
just
assumed that
this
there-
is not
there
just
wasn't-
if a water main breaks. This is you broke a water main, right?
Well, that's what we're assuming that we know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. If someone, I mean, I think we've had them in the past where, I mean, someone drove over a line and broke it. I mean,
Yeah.
We've never
Yeah.
held them responsible for those
Okay.
kind of things. I
Okay, so
mean,
we're kind of
it's
Exercising some
Right.
discretion. Okay.
yeah, some kind of act, intentional act or digging or something
Okay.
like that. So.
That's helpful. I just
Yeah,
wanted to avoid.
Elizabeth, did you have a question? I couldn't remember if I saw you unmute during this discussion, and I wanted to make sure.
No, I have nothing to add,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Another thing I was just thinking of too, so this is the policy, once we get, once council approves it, we'll put something in the code so that way we are authorized to do all these things. So the policy kind of stands separate. This is the thing that we would hand to contractors at our pre-construction meetings and say, hey, take a look at this, make sure you know. I'm wondering if we wanna say that if they don't pay it after 90 days, it moves on to the homeowner. I wonder if that's not something you wanna put in the policy to let contractors know,
Oh, yeah.
hey,
that's-
if you just
Yeah.
don't pay this, then it's gonna
That's a
go to
fair
the
point.
person who,
Yeah.
hired you, so.
I would leave it in there, and if they hire a contractor who plays that way, that's their business.
Yeah,
But wouldn't,
That's fair.
we don't want to put that in there for the owner's awareness, you're saying, or?
No, I think what the point you were saying is they're saying there's an out.
right, if a contractor knew that they could just avoid the bill for 90 days and then ultimately it would go to the homeowner.
The
I'm not
homeowner
so
sues
sure,
them.
yeah, I mean, they should, yeah, they
I
should
mean, I've
take
had
on
to sue
that
contractors, you sue the
responsibility.
contractor,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the small claims or whatever,
Right.
yeah.
No, I mean,
Yeah, it
they're
should
your
get worked out
agent,
between
and
them.
you're responsible for their behavior.
Mhm. Sure, that's exactly what legal said, yeah. Yeah.
I guess the 3 years of law school wasn't wasted.
Yeah.
Alright, well, we would be definitely looking then for a motion to, approve recommending this to the city council, and then we'll take it up at their next meeting as well.
Well, I'll make a motion. Can I make a motion to approve and recommend this policy to city council at their next meeting, or whenever they get to it?
I'll second it.
Okay, second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All abstaining?
Elizabeth, was that a vote?
It was an aye.
Aye, okay, thank you.
It passes. Good luck, city council.
Thank you to the subcommittee that worked on this, we really appreciate it.
Moving on to the next, which is an update on the electronic water meter project.
Project started yesterday. It's very exciting. You'll probably see the big box up at the park. There's a big shipping container up there. That's where the meters all are. They're working daily to do the switch outs. They started actual switching out the meters today. Yesterday was all inventory and making sure they had everything. We expect it to be a 1 to 2 month process. We'll be having weekly meetings along the way, and then we'll also be integrating the data into our system as it happens. So daily or weekly, we haven't 100% figured that out yet, but as they're doing the meter swaps, they're recording what the environment looks like, pictures before and after, what the previous meter looked like, what the new one looked like, restoring the ground. We are gonna have some complaints. They are gonna mess things up or break things, and they'll go back and fix them, and it's okay. But so we're doing it. It's happening, and so probably once we're about halfway through, maybe a little more than that, we'll really turn our focus to the resident side of it and getting that information out about how they'll sign up for those accounts. It's called Ion Water, which I think some people currently have those accounts for, where they can watch their actual water usage themselves. And so we'll turn our focus to getting that information out to the public, but first we need to figure out how to read them ourselves first, and then we'll let everyone else know how to track their water usage. So, but very exciting.
That will solve a lot of problems.
It's going to be awesome. And then in the future, we are going to be bringing another policy back here. We currently have a policy on the books that says for electronic meters, for any meter over a 5/8, which is kind of your standard residential meter, that the resident or whoever's wanting it put in, will pay that difference. Will pay the delta of the regular meter versus a larger size. And so we'll want to revisit that once we get this whole set of meters in. They're all paid for. We've already got, the payments allocated in our water and wastewater funds. So at this first rollout, the meters are all going to go in. Nobody's going to have to pay for an electronic meter. They'll be paying obviously through their utility bill, and we're going to make sure that our, that our rates support that. But going forward after that, if somebody wants to upgrade their meter to a larger meter, if a meter breaks, if they break a meter, things like that, we'll be bringing a policy to talk about whose responsibility is that, because these meters are a little bit more expensive than your traditional mechanical meters, so they're not going to be $100 a piece anymore.
So if I have a 6,000 square foot house, which I don't, and a fire suppression system, which I don't, and it's an inch and a quarter, then that meter is the same?
It's a larger meter, and it actually costs quite a bit more. So as the meters get bigger, they kind of get a little more exponentially more expensive as it goes.
So we'll just spread that across.
For the current rollout. So the rollout is one fixed price. We have enough. We were able to secure some financing, and so we'll be just making payments out of our water and wastewater fund for the next 10 years to just cover that, be done with it. But as they then come back and want to upgrade, we're gonna be get hit with, you know, $500 or $600 meter charges at a time, and we wanna make sure we understand how the council and how the utility commission would like to pass that on. It could be through the rates. Currently, you pay a larger amount per month depending on the size meter you have, so that may be somewhere where we just say, oh, we'll just increase those fees, or it could be a one-time fee, or it could be in the connection fee. We can talk about all that later, but as of right now, they're just being rolled out as they are. So, and we don't anticipate, they all have, I think the batteries have a 10-year warranty, and then even further than that, you know, some kind of modified warranty going forward. So we're not anticipating to have to replace them for anything other than actual like breaks. You know, something really goes wrong with them, or they want to upgrade to a larger meter. So.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you. Moving on. Yes. Go ahead.
Ashley, will every house be getting a new meter?
They will. That was the council did discuss that last week, or last month, because we did have one request at this point to not get an electronic meter. The resident didn't really explain why, but we've heard that there would be, you know, possibly a little bit of resistance from just having one more electronic, something that transmits signals, cellular service kind of thing. So the council did vote officially to say there would be no opting out of this, because that would cause, I mean, we're trying to move to this whole new system, the additional effort and staff time and resources to accommodate that would just not work. So.
Understood.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No. Moving on to item number 6, which is an update on the water CIP packages 1 through 4.
All right, so these, the water updates have been going really well. I believe all of the cul-de-sacs at this point are done. We also, they completed the Hatley and Almerian PRV, pressure release valve. We've had it's been out of service for a long time, and it has officially been replaced. And so we think that could possibly be part of the reason for some of the citywide pressure issues we were having, or just kind of some, not really issues, but like, oh, well, why is this pressurized this way? Our system says this is what it's supposed to be. And so we think we're going to be solving that with this PRV. So we actually pretty soon are going to have, we started a hydrant testing program a couple months ago, but then with some weird issues in the pressure, we stopped. And we think now we're going to be able to pick back up on that and make sure all of our hydrants have adequate pressure. This is just a good thing to have every couple of years probably for fire flow to make sure we have what we need. So that's the water side of it. They are also working on the 2 drainage projects. Those are kind of rolled in here with the water projects, so those have also started construction. And then lastly, Google Fiber is going to come in for the first phase. So we have the project split out into 3 phases where the paving is going to happen in between. So they do all of the cul-de-sacs, and then they're going to come through and pave that all, and then they're going to go back and do another set of projects, and then come back and pave all of that. So Google Fiber is going to be coming in to that first phase and laying their service lines through the streets, or I guess, I don't know, trunk lines, not necessarily the services to each residence, but they'll probably stub those out. So that way we can come in and repave, and that way they won't be breaking into our brand new streets once we have them all paved. So that's probably going to happen. They have just gotten their permit. So we are holding on our paving schedule until they can finish their first installation, and that should be happening in the next 2 weeks. So we'll definitely be sending information out, because you will hear them coming down the street. It will be quite the operation, but it will be fast, and they will be in and they will be out, and then we will pave right over it, and you won't even know it happened. So, and then we don't know from them yet when they will actually have service set up to those lines. I think we had them speed up their timeline pretty considerably to meet our paving schedule, and so they may not have the full infrastructure around us ready to actually begin serving, but they're planning to do that in the near term. So we'll keep an eye on what that is, and we'll let you all know.
So that's the number 1 question I get, is not about the water improvement projects, but about the Google timeline. And so what is like our guidance there, or which is?
I'll have to get some more information from them on when they would actually go live. So our projects are estimated to go through mid-2025. So they wouldn't actually have, so we need to do our water lines first, then they need to come in and do their Google Fiber, and then we need to pave. We don't want to do that out of order, so we don't risk conflicting and, you know, hitting their lines that are newly put in the ground. And so it will be till mid-2025 before the entire city has the infrastructure. The only thing I'm not sure about is the connecting infrastructure to wherever the hub, mothership, I don't know what they call it, but that will actually, like, where they can actually flip the switch, and then what that process will be. I believe they'll have to reach out to, or do some kind of information campaign to property owners to see if they want them to come and lay the service lines
Okay.
as well.
So we don't even know if they could even turn it on before mid-2025. I think it's unclear if
I
they do
don't
a
know.
partial
That's right.
release or something.
I'm not sure if they will, but I can try to find out. I know they're supposed to be doing the same thing in Westlake Hills. I don't know what the timeline is on that, but I would assume I would assume they have to kind of go live in a certain order from what's already live, and so I don't know what's standing between us right now and
Okay.
and the nearest service, but we can try to get some more clarity on that.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure they must know, right? So yeah, if we could
I would
find
think
out.
so. Yeah.
That is like no water improvement project. I don't get questions. I'm sure someone wants about it. Like everyone's like Google. Like when is Google coming?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, people care about that way
I think
more.
people have heard that it's kind of following the water improvement projects, and then they're like, okay, well, do I get it next year? Or
Right.
is it actually something at the end? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
We're excited about it too. We also would like it here at City Hall, so
Yeah.
we're pushing for it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's,
Great.
that's where we're at.
Great, thank you. That is the last item, so unless anyone has any comment to
Question.
you guys would be good.
We look at the numbers every 2 years on how we're doing in terms of deficit.
Like rates
Yeah.
studies for, yes, so we,
Are we coming up on that? It seems like we are.
so our original plan actually was to alternate annually and do water 1 year, wastewater 1 year. I don't believe we've done anything since wastewater, probably a couple years ago.
That's what I was
And
thinking.
I think the reason was electronic meters have always been on the horizon, and it's always like, oh, let's just wait for those because that's going to give us a much more accurate depiction of our water use, and now we're actually doing it. So we are planning to budget for a water rate study next year. So our fiscal year starts October 1, so that should give us a few months with the meters. They collect a lot of the data we would need for a water rate study. They'll be a lot more accurate. And so we'll actually know that we're charging what we need to, and so that would be the plan. We can bring a budget though, or kind of the funds to let you guys see kind of what those are. I don't believe currently either of the funds are in any danger of deficit.
There's no deficit.
Not this year.
That was the whole point of 5 years of us talking, and
Guess we got pretty close, huh?
I know we got, in case we got close.
Yeah,
So,
but we can
okay.
bring. That's a good.
No,
point.
no,
We
I was
should-
just curious. I just wanted
Yeah.
to know that there's sort of
Everything's
there
okay
the
and
costs.
right. Yeah. Yes. I'm not 100. I think wastewater might have been the one that was having some issues previously, and that's why we did that wastewater rate study, and it seems to be doing better. But I'll get some more information, and we'll bring that to your
It's
next
fine,
meeting.
it's
I think
fine.
that's a good.
If there's not a huge deficit that has to come out of the,
Okay.
city's budget, that's fine.
Okay. We
That's
won't
all
bring
I
the
was curious.
finance guy out unless there's bad news. So if you see him at your next
Yeah,
meeting,
good.
I had a similar. This isn't really for you, Ashley, but it was just a similar question or thought around the city's long-term water plan, and should we, on some annual, biannual, whatever frequency, like I know we're not the ones. It sounds like people, whether it's city council or the mayor or the city's office, are often already thinking about this and thinking ahead. But should we, as the utility commission, just review that, or
This is
some
accessibility
update?
to water, with
Like
the contract
water
with City of
contracts,
Austin.
water supply,
Yeah.
just so that there's awareness, at least, because I feel like to the
So-
extent that there's changes in the future that are really far out, as a utility commission, should that be something that at least gets,
Yeah, so to the extent there is
Publicized.
something to update or quickly overview the latest where we are, when does this become something that we really need to be thinking about to this, because we're also out in the community and some people know about it and they ask us and to go on.
Sure. Well, we should probably wait until we have a properly posted agenda for that. Just
That sounds good.
agenda
I'm saying,
items.
can we put that
We'll do it on
on
our next
either, but
our next
if there's
meeting.
nothing, if you know that there's nothing to know today, but that there is a meeting in 3 months, then let's just say,
that's right.
we'll put it on the agenda, cause there's going to be some
Right.
People will
valuable
ask.
information.
Sure.
Otherwise, if there's nothing for a while, then just throw it on one of the agendas and let's just have a discussion about it so we can all be brought up to speed.
Sounds great.
on
We'll
a
do
high
that.
level. Thank you.
Yeah.
With that, I will adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Well, Ashley, you made your building pretty.